Hello, welcome to online meeting with SWPS University. This is another out of series of webinar during which, with the help of experts and our students, we will try to resolve any doubts regarding studying abroad. For the next few months, we will help you to prepare for studying in Poland, and we will try to answer the questions that bother you the most. This is a webinar organized in cooperation with National Agency for Academic Exchange. My name is Dorota Słowinska. I'm admissions officer, and I'm here today with Karolina Mazurowska. Hi, Karolina.
Hello.
Who is a cross-cultural psychologist with over 16 years of experience in teaching international students, both in Poland and abroad. She is a head of Global Minds Master Studies in Social and Cross-Cultural Psychology at SWPS University and shares with you her knowledge in the area of cultural adaptation and pros and cons of studying abroad. And before we start, I would like to strongly encourage you to check the updates on our website. There are more meetings to come. The next one is on May 17, and it's titled How to Cope with Stress Arising from Leaving Home to Study Abroad. My good colleague, friend Adrianna is available to answer any questions you may have in the chat box. So if you have any, do not hesitate to ask her. And we can now move to the main part of our meeting. And firstly, I would like to ask Karolina, could you tell us what are cross-cultural differences? Could you give us examples of common misunderstanding that may arise from cultural differences?
Thank you, Dorota, for introducing me. It's a great pleasure to be here and be able to reply to all your questions. Starting with cultural differences, when we talk about it, when we talk about comparing cultures on a cross-cultural level, we are talking about clusters of cultures and differences that are arising from it. So Poland is, for example, in one cluster of cultures together with other post-communist countries like Ukraine, Russia, Georgia, Slovenia, etc. So when there are students who are coming from a German-speaking cluster, from Germany, Switzerland, Austria, or students who are coming from Confucian cultures cluster like China, Japan, Korea, cultural distance and cultural differences may actually impact their cultural adaptation to the Polish culture. Let me give you a couple of examples. Let's take power distance into consideration. And what I mean by power distance is hierarchy in society. It seems that in Poland, still in a Polish culture, there is a hierarchy at the university level, for example. So generally speaking, older people or people higher in hierarchy at the university level expect respect and respect politeness from the people who are younger, who are students, who are subordinates. So this may cause problems. So if you come, for example, from a culture that values equality, like in Norway or Sweden or Denmark, then being forced to face academic environment in Poland, being able to having to address professors by saying hello professor instead of calling her or her by his or her name might be a challenge. Sometimes even students from my students from Norway challenge me during classes and say, for example, I don't really agree with what you're saying, right? Or I don't really think it is so. Let's talk about it, right? So this is not a situation that is common, I think, in a Polish academic setting, and some senior professors might even feel offended by students challenging him or her. So this is one example. The second example of cross-cultural differences might be related to time and time management. So, for example, when you come from a culture where punctuality is not that important, you may face challenges, as here you're expected to be actually very punctual at the university. So, and of course, my wonderful, amazing students are sometimes late, and they're, saying, oh, sorry, but still, a norm is to be on time, to be, if the classes start at 8:30 in the morning, you've got to be at 8:30, because we're kicking off at 8:30 sharp. There's no negotiation within this as far as starting time of classes is concerned, right? So this is the second thing. The third thing is, for example, communication style, whether it's more direct or indirect, and cultures also differ in terms of communication, approach to communication. So when it comes to academia and academic environment in Poland, it's rather indirect, it's rather formal but friendly, with lower assertiveness. So, for example, you cannot say to a deanery, to an officer, academic officer, if you say, enroll me to the course that I wanted to be enrolled to, right? So you've got to formulate it in a more softer way, indirectly, be more polite, express politeness. So avoid being assertive. It's not something that it's appreciated. It's something rather that is frowned upon, I think, in the academic environment. So I would stress on those three areas of difficulties, of cultural dimensions that might impact actually your studying process in Poland.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Karolina. Another question is, can cultural differences impact the adaptation process to studying and living in Poland? Could you tell us how?
Well, certainly it could impact the adaptation processes, both when it comes to studying, but also when it comes to living in Poland. So I would like to address three areas of challenges. So first of all, sociocultural challenges of adapting to a daily life. For example, language, right? Language may be very different to you, and of course, if you're enrolled to English-speaking program, then language itself is not a problem. But still, many Polish people don't actually speak in English. Younger generation does, and among younger generation, it's easy to communicate in English, and there are many people helpful and ready to help you out on the streets and everywhere. But I would strongly advise trying to learn at least a couple of important phrases, so that you can be able to ask for help, meet new people. So definitely a challenge related to learning Polish language is there. Also, what is important when it comes to adaptation to a new environment is learning norms, ways of behavior that are actually appropriate in a new culture. So, for example, as I mentioned to you, how to address the professor correctly, right, in the academia, or how to write an email with an excuse that you didn't submit your homework on time, or how to deal with the last-minute changes at the university. So those are those aspects, sociocultural aspects of living in a new environment that could be imposed by cultural differences, right? There are also psychological challenges. What I mean by psychological challenges is that your well-being changes after the arrival to a new country, to a new culture, and of course, it depends on the cultural background, but it depends also on personality and your attitudes towards staying abroad. If it's positive, if you feel like you're open to new experiences, if you're open to new people, also to challenges that may inevitably occur in the university, then there's a greater chance that you overcome the challenges. Actually, I wanted to say that I studied in China. I used to study in China for a couple of years during my studies, and what I can say, drawing on my experience, is that it was both challenges, but from today's perspective, I would call it the best experience in my life. The language was different, the cultural environment was different. So, as I mentioned to you, culture distance, like between Poland and China, is actually very. There is a huge difference, cultural difference. Yeah. So, but with so many nice people, a group of support that I managed to create there, I'm thinking from today's perspective that those were really great times, even though I experienced a number of challenges. So, also getting back to the question. I think the administrative challenges that students may face, this is something that also may stem from norms, different norms that prevail in your home country, and the differences with the norms that are here present at our university. So those are three areas that I think you might like to take into consideration when thinking about coming to Poland. But we are here to help you. I think together with Dorota, we will talk in a second about the ways that we could actually support your stay at our university. So you're not left alone. We're going to support you.
Of course. And also, I had similar, maybe not similar. I also had an experience to study abroad because I did my high school in Ireland, in Dublin. So for me, I was thinking about cultural differences between Ireland and Poland, and there are so many. But the first one that was for me the biggest challenge for the first few days when I moved there was to not stop at the red lights as a pedestrian. And when I came back for holidays to Poland, it was weird for me that everyone stops and cars are not just waiting for me to move past because I was in hurry. And for me, the difference even in walking down the street between two countries, which are both in Europe, both Catholic countries, that was really funny for me and also dangerous.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, this is we can actually enlist a number of such differences. Like, for example, international students are quite surprised with the fact that whenever you enter bus or metro or any mean of public transportation, you've got to validate your ticket. It's not enough to have a ticket, right? You've got to validate it. You've got to check it. So, and many students don't know about it until they actually learn, either by the fact of meeting with the person who checks it, or somebody tells them that this is the way it works, right? This is the norm of validating the ticket. It's not enough to have it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we can enlist a number of differences, like different food, right? So this is something that might contribute to
time of having food, like lunch, for example.
Exactly.
We don't have lunch break in Poland. Well,
No,
we have a break, but we have dinner. And for us, dinner is something different than lunch, right?
Exactly. So, for example, yeah, and I hear it from a number of my international students that they for them 15 minutes break between our classes, it's not enough to have a lunch break, right? It's not a lunch break, actually. It's just a
break.
just a short break to just to change a classroom. And actually, they are longing for longer breaks in order to, to get some rest, to meet with friends. And this is something that we actually don't practice at our university. But also factors like weather may impact your adaptation, right? So the research says that if students come from a culture where the weather is better than in the culture where they move to, then they actually may face greater challenges with adapting to weather conditions. So this is also a factor. Today, students told me, I just had classes from 8:30 a.m. Whoa, what's the weather like? Like, what's the season now? We are confused. Like, it was snowing last week over the weekend, and now flowers are blooming. There's a beautiful sunshine, and they were quite confused. So they are always laughing that the weather in Poland changes a couple of times a day, and you've got to be ready for all conditions. So that's the beauty of living in our beautiful climate.
Definitely. Carolina, is there anything that may help our students? You mentioned that before. Have you got any advice for them?
Absolutely. I have a number of advice. The first one I would like to give you is to get a little bit prepared as far as Polish culture is concerned prior to your transfer to Poland. So I would advise you to read a bit about the country, about the people, about the culture. Of course, many things may surprise you, but at least you may be prepared to some extent. I would also suggest making realistic expectations about studying and living in a new culture. So research says that the more realistic expectations towards studying abroad, the less problems related to psychological adjustment. So if you expect too much, you can be really disappointed, and this may contribute towards cultural adaptation, psychological adaptation. And this is definitely the thing. Another issue is related to creating a group of support. So research says that a group of support contributes to a better adaptation. A group of support, meaning friends, closer friends, people who you can hang out with, also your colleagues at the university. So everyone who could be helpful in the process of adaptation, who could inform you how to do things, what are the norms, what are the different behaviors, appropriate and inappropriate ones in a new culture, who can help you in a number of situations that you may face during your stay abroad.
Now, also, I would, if I may add something, I would suggest to also try to make friends not only within a group of international students. That was something that was hard for me, for example. It was easier for me when I left abroad to be in a group of other Polish people or other international students. And it was hard for me to really make friends with Irish people, to really know the culture that I'm in, not just being abroad. So always remember to try to get as much from the situation as you can to meet the culture, meet people, meet food, like everything that you can try and experience.
Exactly. That's great that you mentioned that, Dorota, because this is exactly what research says about the process of adaptation and making friends with people who are in a similar situation than you are when studying abroad. So we may say that students have a tendency to get stuck in something that research calls a cultural buffer. So a group of other internationals who share the same experiences as they do, but it actually prevents them from learning about the local culture, local people, how they live, who they are. So this is on one hand a challenge to meet with the locals, but at the same time it gives you a better understanding where you actually are, what is the country like. As I mentioned, who are the people, and brings greater satisfaction with the stay abroad.
Exactly. And better memories as well.
Better memories, definitely.
Carolina, next question is, how can different cultural codes influence communication and behavior?
Well, I already mentioned a couple of things. I would say that in the academic world, relations with professors, relations with the lecturers may be very different. But when it comes to everyday living, this is, for example, a cultural code related to greetings. My Italian and Spanish students say that they have a feeling that Polish people are cold and reserved, just because the way we greet is very different, right? This is not, we don't hug when we meet people for the very first time. It's usually we don't kiss if we meet for the very first time. It takes time to make friendships with the local Poles. It takes time to minimize the distance, but once you're befriended, you're gonna see that it's not that Polish people are cold and reserved, but they actually need some time to develop trust, develop friendship. It takes some time and effort, right? So this is a norm that students tend to observe. The other norm, for example, refers to the fact that international students often say that Polish people don't smile in public.
Yeah, I heard that too. Spaces. And there are memes also. If you Google meme smiles in Polish, you can see a different takes on how it is to smile in Polish. Like it doesn't show a full smile with your lips, with your mouth, but it shows that you can smile only with the eyes, like. And this is a smile. Like we don't also smile as much in pictures, I would say. It's very visible.
Yeah, we smile towards our friends, to our family members, but we don't really. It's not a norm to smile to people that you meet in a public spaces or in public transportation. You rather avoid eye contact. You avoid being loud, for example, talking loud on your phone. This is the norm here. So this is something that some students think might be challenging when it comes to adaptation, but you just get along with it after some time.
Yeah, exactly. So we went through the codes, the cultural codes that are here in Poland and in different cultures. But can you experience culture shock upon arriving to Poland, and how does it look like?
Well, let's better call it acculturation stress, because the term culture shock indicates that it happens in a moment, but actually it doesn't. So adaptation to a new culture is a process, right? So it's a long-term process. There are many different things that bother you bit by bit. And then after some time, you may feel overwhelmed with basically everything, like everything annoys you, and you may feel angry, you may feel frustrated, you may feel negative towards interactions with the locals. So it's rather students may face acculturation stress. So not shock. It doesn't happen in a moment, but it's a like a long-term process of adaptation. But the good news is that we may overcome it and eventually, feel better in a new culture. It definitely comes with time and experience. On the other hand, I would also stress fact that it's not that everyone has to experience stress from the very beginning. So sometimes people may experience a honeymoon right after arrival. Honeymoon, you may associate it probably with a honeymoon stage after getting married, and that's true. This is exactly a similar state when you feel that everything is new, everything is fantastic, everything is exciting. People are so great and friendly and helpful, and you feel like you're just in heaven. You just moved to a perfect culture. It's only after a month or so that students may feel that they are slowly being confronted with everyday life and everyday challenges and cultural differences. But then I would say that resources are helpful in this stage. So it's good to try to build friendships, build a circle of friends at the university. Make meaningful connections with people that you can actually rely on, right? Because I would also say that family sometimes may not be the source of support, in the sense that you're moving to a totally different reality. You're facing new challenges, new projects, engage into relationships with new people. So this is not the thing, not always the thing that your family and friends back home could understand. So I would suggest to actually make new friends, develop a circle of people who could support you, who you could rely on in a new country.
Mm-hmm. Carolina, can you think about any other factors on how is Poland different from the rest of the world, and what can also surprise our foreign students?
The funny thing is that international students often say that here in Poland there's a great number of churches, that they are basically everywhere. So I have an example in my mind of one student from India who was a Catholic, who was so inspired to come to Poland to study because of their religion. And the funny situation was when she arrived to the university, and she asked me, where is the nearest church, nearest to the university, next to the university? And when I couldn't tell, she was apparently disappointed because she thought, every single person is Catholic. Every single person has to know where the nearest church is located. So that was quite surprising, both for her and both for me, right? That she came with this preconception, with this idea that we are all so Catholic. And I would say that, speaking seriously, I think that Poland is still a quite traditional country, although you must know that there's a great shift in values between generations. So, for example, young Poles are not as traditional, not as religious as the older generation. They all tend to use TikTok or Snapchat, just like other people in their age in other European countries. So I think you wouldn't find many differences. So this is something that might surprise people. Also, yeah, I mentioned greetings. I mentioned the way people approach each other. Also, the consumption of alcohol, for example, is something that people may find surprising. Of course, it depends on the country that you come from. For example, we have a number of students coming from Turkey or Muslim countries who don't drink alcohol at all. And the norm is that in order to become a buddy, you could actually go out together and well, for a beer or something. So this is another thing that might evoke surprise or dissatisfaction or disappointment on both sides, right?
Exactly. And is there any way in which our university could help our foreign students in this whole experience of moving to another country and then in the experience of living here?
Oh, yes. Actually, since 2005, when we started to enroll international students, we've created a number of programs for international students that would help them in getting through the adaptation process, developing their cultural sensitivity, developing their intercultural competence. So we support students in terms of adaptation trainings, usually in the beginning of their stay in Poland. For example, during the orientation weeks, when we try to integrate students, when we present them cultural differences that may be important for them. We try to make them more comfortable with academic environment. We try to show them what are do's and don'ts in academia, so that they can feel more at home, right? So that they get more familiar with the surrounding, cultural surrounding, with the things that they can expect from studying and living in Poland. But students may also count on Erasmus Student Network that is present at our university. For example, they offer a buddy system, meaning that there's a local person or another international student who you could make a friend with, and he or she might assist you from the very beginning. Even there are students who could help you out with finding a flat, or even picking you up from the airport. So this also used to happen. So this is the second thing. And the third thing that I wanted to talk about is psychological support that we provide during the course of studies. So whenever students feel like they struggle with coping with different challenges in different situations, they may address our professionals who are always there to help.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Carolina. I think we covered all topics we have prepared for today. The last question for you would be if you have any advice. You already gave us a lot of advices for our students, but maybe the last one for today's meeting, based on your experience, that you would like to share with our viewers. Is there anything they should focus on?
Well, I would again stress on such things that you could actually do prior to your transfer to Poland. So getting prepared with the as far as Polish culture is concerned, but also learning some language, at least some basic words and expressions that would help you from the very beginning. Definitely making realistic expectations to what you say. Don't imagine that you would graduate within 2 years, be enrolled to a multinational company, make a great career within, I don't know, 3 years upon graduating. I mean, the more realistic expectations, the better. And also try to be open-minded, try to be empathetic, try to be open to new experiences, I think, willing to get into cultural contact, be ready also to challenge yourself on many levels. This is an important mindset that I think all international students might like to have before they decide eventually to begin their studies in a foreign university.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Carolina. That's all
You're
the
very
time.
welcome.
Thank you. That's all the time we have for today. I would like to thank my guest, Carolina, once again for joining us today and for plenty of information which definitely will help our viewers. Thank you for watching us today, and please check our website for the upcoming webinars. And the very next one is on May 17. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.